Sunday again, and we went to church today, continuing in our sermon series on James. So part 3 about speech and obedience. We were in James chapter 1 still, the final verses of chapter 1. And as I was listening today and in church, not just listening online, I was struck by how Pastor Danny kind of reviewed last week. So last week we were in part 2 and it had 3 points, A, B, and C, and we really only finished A and a little bit of B. But so he goes back today and he starts reviewing, starting with part 2 and A. And I wondered today, as one of the things he said last week and repeated today was, go home and ask your kids or ask somebody what was the sermon about. And so as I was thinking about that statement, what was the sermon about, and listening to what he had to say today, that was the same message for part 2 as last week, but with different words. I wonder how many weeks in a row he could preach about the same thing before people realized that he was speaking on the same subject, and able to carry that through longer and in their memory and in life. Anyway, that was just a thought that came to mind. Like, what if he preached on the same point for 4 weeks? Would it get old? Would we get tired of it? Because we were in week 2 when he was reviewing, and it was as if, although I know that I heard it last week, it was fresh and new, and still, because I have not mastered that, still just as meaningful to my heart, and still able to take notes and all of the things that we do. Anyway, I was really excited because my son had some friends today at church, and they don't go to church. They weren't raised in church. They don't really know a whole lot about church or the Bible or God for that matter. And so today was really a great message, because it was a message that we could have a conversation about with respect to Christianity and to living out your faith, doing what you believe, being a better person, loving the Lord, without it being, I don't want to say preachy, that's not it, but without it being feeling judgmental or accusatory or overly hard, right? So each one of these young men who are at my house, they want something better for their life. So as we were talking about the subject of being doers of the word, not just hearers, but then it goes on to talk about bridling your tongue, like being in control of the words that come out of your mouth, of what you say, how you say it. Not just talking about coarse language, but having a conversation maybe that isn't yours to have, gossip or hurtful things. And so as we were having lunch today, we were continuously having to say language. A couple of the boys just come from homes and lifestyles where that is common day every place. Okay? So it's what they know and what they're used to. And though they want to respect and honor the fact that that's not how we talk in our home, it can be difficult for them. So we started having this conversation about bridling your tongue and what does that mean? And just talking about even, do you want your future to be trashy? Because as somebody else, we just talk about swearing for one thing, and if you can't control what comes out of your mouth, how is that going to impact your future? Your relationship with your boss? If you are a boss, your relationship with your people? Like, you are limiting your ability to converse with people to these forms of speech that are inappropriate, that are crude, that don't show your intelligence or your vocabulary, right? So we started talking about this and how having control over what you say in all circumstances, not just because I'm not at the bar, but I'm at my friend's mom's house, shows character, the character of who you are. And then we were able to talk more about the sermon and about how we heard that you shouldn't be like this. And so now how are you going to go out into the world and practice this? And specifically with my son, I'm like, and with all these boys, I'm like, why? Why do you want to talk like that? And what do you think is going to happen if you go out with your friends who do talk like that and you choose not to? It shows that you are bettering yourself. You're trying to do something better. Find different ways to express yourself. It shows character. No one's going to shun or judge you because you've decided you aren't going to swear anymore. As a matter of fact, they may not even notice right away. Putting things into action so that people notice that there's something different about you. Now, I do that because I want to obey the Word of God. And these boys don't know Jesus, and I'm hoping that one day that they will, and that through our conversations and opening the Word during the times that they come over to my house or they do attend church, that is going to change, that Jesus will get a hold of them and show them and invite them to know Him. And that through that, there will now be a door open for me to be able to continue to have conversations with these boys about living a life worthy of living, one that's worth more than what they are living now, that has more of a future. It has not just a future in what they're going to do for jobs or what they're going to do when they get married. How about the kind of parent they're going to be, the kind of friend and neighbor that they're going to be, and just really starting to show how all of these things that we do today that are making us into better people are going to make us be better at all of those things, being a better patriot, a better American, all of the things. And I love that the book of James is so practical that we are able to have these conversations with people who aren't even believers yet, but one day are going to be. They are going to be. I know they are going to be. But as I talk with my son too, who spends an inordinate amount of time with people who are not believers and struggles a little bit with always doing the right thing, just how his example can lead these people to Christ. If he were to choose to bridle his tongue, to be doers of the word, even though he is hanging out with these people who are not doing necessarily the right thing all the time, when he makes that choice to do the right thing and to walk away, or to say, yeah, you go ahead, but not me. I'm not going to participate in that conversation because we're just bad-mouthing somebody else, or we're making fun of something. That's not encouraging and uplifting. We call this person our friend? Why are we talking about them like that? Different things like that. His ability to be a hearer and a doer of the word is going to impact the lives of his friends around him. Even if they never become believers, it is something that will be remembered for, his character. Because he's not judging them, but he is doing something different and calling them to be a better friend. I love the book of James. Love the book of James. So I am going to be back with the sermon summary again later this week, but today those are the things that happened in our lives after church that really helped to implant this word of James, these verses in James in our lives, and make them something, relate them to something that is happening in our lives today in a way that we can use them. And we all have those experiences. Being a doer of the word, even if the only people that we see all week long are our kids and the grocery store clerk, we have an impact on people's lives. And these practical things that we can do that obey Jesus, that call us out as a little bit different, that is our character as a little bit more true and a little bit more righteous than the person who is not following Jesus. They are actions that show who we are, because our words don't matter if our actions don't match. So think about that, and we'll see you again really soon. Thanks for listening. Bye now.